What's up, Subie friends? Welcome back to the channel. Guess what we're doing today? Yeah, if you guessed taking apart the Subie and making a mess all over the garage, you'd probably be right. Maybe not quite making a mess all over the garage floor, but we are finally going to get these stainless steel brake lines onto the car. Maybe going to the track, maybe not going to the track. We don't know, but yeah, it's been a while. I know, you're probably like, well, what's a while? Well, let's just say I ordered these brake lines back in October and it's now almost middle of January. And I hated that I waited this long because now it's kind of cold. But hey, I am the king of procrastination, so I mean, that's kind of what I get, right? So, in typical Subie fashion, let's get these wheels off and this car off the ground so I can show you the brake lines that we got. Kind of excited. Alright, I don't know about you, but taking off the wheels is always the fun part. But putting them back on, that's the why are these so heavy part. Alright, let me show you what we got. We got both the rear and the front to do. They're both stainless steel brake lines, and they're by Faction Fab. All the links in the description to everything that I use. Also, I forgot to mention the brake fluid that we're using. We're going to use some RBF 600. The only reason why I remember this is because of RBF, you know, RBF. Your girlfriend will understand. So one of the cool things about doing this is you get to put on brand new hardware. Now I know nobody's ever gonna see it, but I mean, right now, it's shiny, and we like shiny. When I took off these tires, I was like, damn, these things look good. All right, enough of that, let's get back to work. So of course, I'll list all the tools that I'd use, but for right now, you're definitely gonna need a 12mm socket, as well as a drain pan, because you're gonna have a lot of brake fluid dripping all over, and you just wanna keep it contained, so put it in the pan. Now I know you're also gonna need a wrench, but I'll tell you when you get to that part. All right, first up, we wanna do is we wanna undo this 12mm right here. You're a lot tighter than you look.
Now this 12mm bolt that we're removing holds on our brake lines to the Fortunato coilovers. And once that's done, our brake line and our bracket should just slide right down. And next, we just want to remove our retaining clip, and that's done by a simple flathead screwdriver and a hammer.
So this right here is our old retaining clip. That's what you're gonna need to take out. It's a lot different than what our new one's gonna look like because it doesn't have this back part right here. So basically just get your screwdriver, stick it in there, in between this part right there, and then you can just hit it out.
So for our brake line, I'm using a flare nut wrench, which should possibly reduce our chances of maybe stripping our bolt later on. Here's a good tip. Grab some vice grips and clamp it onto the old brake line that you're about to remove. I mean, because you're going to remove the brake line anyways, right? So it doesn't really matter if it gets ruined. Now those brake lines were on there pretty tight. I gave it a lot of force and crossed my fingers and hoped that it didn't break. And luckily, it didn't. And eventually, it came loose.
That's what our old one looks like. And it's the one that we're replacing. Take this, slide it so it points downwards towards our bucket in case anything wants to drip out of there.
And now that that's off, you can finally grab our brand new steel braided brake line, slide it through the brake line bracket, and screw the new brake line onto the hardline brake line. And let me tell you, it's going to be frustrating because your hands are going to be so slippery and greasy, but that's no big deal because hey, we got this. Now just grab that 17mm along with your other one, and you just tighten them both together, and then hey, that part's done. We're moving right along. Alright, that feels good. Last I want is something happening on the freeway. We're going to undo our old one. Don't worry about the brake fluid dripping because we're going to replace a lot of it anyways. Make sure you have both of the old copper washers. So with our new bolt, it's going to go something like this. We're going to have a new 14mm banjo bolt, looks like this. Then we're going to put on a copper washer, looks like that. After that goes a brake line, looks like this. After that, yep, you guessed it, it's another copper washer. And that, my Subie friends, that's how our new brake line is going to go. Now let's get it into the car. And next, I just want to put on our new retaining clip that looks just like this. And lastly is our bracket. We just reinstall this back onto the lower part of the coilovers.
Okay, so now that we got the front driver done, we can move on and do the back, and I'll show you how that goes. It's kind of like the front, but it's in the back. Now we're at the back of the car. What I'm going to do is I'm going to undo this here. This is our brake line connected to our old brake line that we're going to remove. We're going to undo this clip right here. It's a 12mm bolt. And then we're going to move to the back where the caliper is, and we're going to undo that one. Yeah, exactly the same as the front.
Now it really is the same as the front and the back. I mean, the main big difference is this one has a different style clip than it did in the front. And other than that, well, it's pretty much the same. Now, I know I said this before, but hey, you know how I said your hands are going to be slippery? Well, this is going to be the most frustrating part.
Lines all tightened up. We got the 12mm back in, the bracket that supports our braided lines, and we got the back bolt on. So now we just gotta move over to the other side and repeat the same steps. Okay, for this next side, I'm probably just gonna put it on a time lapse. So yeah, I'm just gonna put this on a time lapse because, well, nobody wants to see me do this again. Ooh, cool music and time lapse. Yeah, it is. Let's go away. Oh, dick.
And we will be back right after this.
Okay, over here we have our power bleeder. This one's by OMT, and it also comes with the brake bleeder bottle. We got our Motul RBF 600. This is some great high temp brake fluid, so if you're on the brakes very heavily, your brakes won't fade, and then, well, very bad day. So let's get this set up. I'm gonna show you how to do it. All right, cap goes on. It looks a little weird because it's a bit wobbly, but we'll see how this goes. All right, next I'm gonna grab the bleeder itself. That's completely empty. And I'm just gonna put the top on it and hope that it builds pressure. Oh, it's moving. Hey, it's moving. So when we're doing this, we want this to be at 10 PSI, okay? Right now it says it's at 9, which is cool. I'm just gonna leave it like this just to make sure that there is no leaks. But I get how this works. This builds pressure, it pushes all the fluid down in there, and when you crack it open, you're gonna get a lot of the fluid coming out the back. Yeah, I'm a horrible explainer, but I will link this in the description below.
What it's doing is it's creating positive pressure. So when the pressure builds up inside the reservoir, you then go and slightly crack open the bleeder valves on the brake calipers. And that way it just pushes the brake fluid out, along with any of the air bubbles that might be in the system.
Looks like pee. I don't know if you can see it, but this is a cool design where these little grooves match the grooves that are on the outside of here. So when you're tightening it and loosening it, they just lock on. Pretty nice. All right, I got my bottle. I'm gonna get it all set up into the brake caliper, and then we're gonna start pumping and bleeding. Pay attention to this next part. This is probably a little bit important. Now, according to the service manual, it wants you to bleed the brakes in the following order. We're gonna go the right front, just here, then the left front, just here, then, all right, then we're gonna move to the back, we're gonna do the left rear, I'm gonna move over to the other side and do the left rear. And yeah, I know it's a lot different than most, because a lot of cars want you to do furthest away from the brake reservoir first, but in this case it says do it like this, and that's how we're going to do it. Before I do this, I just want to clean this off. It is rusty and crusty. Here we go. I just took an 11mm socket and I put it on top, and then that way it would be a little bit easier to undo them. So I'm gonna take our bottle top catcher thing, put it on inside. I don't know why I'm so nervous doing this. Oh, fluid's coming through here. So I think it is. This is really cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. So now I can head over to the brakes and crack open the bleeder valve just slightly. That way it lets some of the brake fluid and the air bubbles out. Now we're starting on the inside first, and then we're moving to the outside.
We got all 4 calipers bled. They feel great. I already started up the car, pumped the brakes a few times just to make sure it feels nice and not spongy, if that makes sense. They feel great. I'm happy with the way that went. The power bleeder, definitely. a good idea if you're gonna do this, especially if you're gonna do it by yourself. Originally, I was gonna have somebody else come. We're gonna do the two-person method, but luckily, didn't have to do that. So this whole job, out of all 4 corners, this one was the one. And you know what I mean by the one? Yeah. Don't forget to do the bleeder on the inside of the back caliper first. That one's there. It's kind of a pain in the butt to get to. Just use a 11mm socket and just to loosen it up, and it should work wonders. Because that way you can just switch to the ratchet. That way you can just switch to the wrench.
90% of the time I have no idea what the fuck I'm talking about.
Okay, what do we got? Dang, that's it? Guess that is it. So it's about halfway left. Yeah, this is about halfway. And this is 500 milliliters or 1 pint. So I got about a half a pint left, or 250 milliliters. Oh, look at that math I just did right now. This is, we'll just say this is the flushed brake fluid. So yeah, since you already have, since you know you have 2 bottles, you might as well just go crazy and let all the air bubbles and try to get as much fluid out of the old airline or out of the lines as possible. This right here I'll just set aside for next time I go to a place so I can recycle it. So now all I got left is to get these wheels back on and take it for a spin. Oh, these things are heavy, but they're so big. Alright, Subie friends, we're back. So we took the Subie out for a test drive, and you know what? The brakes, they felt a little bit spongy, and I wasn't happy with that. So I came back, and we had to re-bleed them using the two-person method. Now that way, it worked a lot better than using the power bleeder. The power bleeder is really good if you don't have somebody around to help you do it. But the two-person method, that one, that's like their G code right there. So the front passenger had a lot more air bubbles than I thought there was, and which I believe was the culprit of the whole sponginess. And once I got that one done, I went around and did all 4 of them, and now they feel perfect. Now you're probably wondering, do I notice a difference? Is there a difference between the regular brake lines and steel braided brake lines? Well, for right now, since it's only been a few days and I only drove it maybe around the block a few times, I can't tell you because I haven't noticed a difference. When I get more seat time in it, then I'll let you guys know if it's worth the upgrade. One other thing that I'd like to point out, actually 2 things I want to point out. Okay, so when you put your tire on, make sure that there is clearance between your new brake lines. So when I backed the car out the first time, I heard the brake line rubbing on the wheel, which wasn't good. So I pulled it back in, pulled all the wheels off. Well, actually I just put the front too to make sure that there was all clearance. And took care of that issue, because that right there could have been a really, really bad day. Also, the next thing that I wanted to point out, so you basically have all the tools you need in your garage to do this. But one thing that I did wish that I had was a shorter 11mm wrench, because this one was just a little bit too long. I mean, it is a standard size, but when we were doing the rear brake caliper, there really wasn't much room to work. So what I'm trying to say is, wish this one was a little bit shorter. All right, so for right now, like I said, I don't really notice the difference, but hit me up in a few days and I'll have a lot more seat time, and then I'll be able to tell you if it's worth the upgrade. Now I have all the links to everything that I use in the description below, including the power bleeder, where I got the brake lines, everything. But, well, that's all I got for this one, you guys. I want to say thanks for watching. Stay tuned for a lot more STI content. It's coming. It's coming. It's a lot more coming. And catch you guys on the next one. All right, peace out. Like, I really don't even know what I'm saying half the time. Most of the time, my mind just blanks out, and I'm just like, you know what I mean? All right, yeah, I'm out.
The second part of this test involves you. If you have been correctly installed as part of your stereo system, you will now lift the record up, turn it over, and replace it on the turntable with side 2 on the top. You will then proceed to listen to all of side 2. If you do not do this, you have failed the test, and you have the worst hi-fi system in the world, no matter how much money you spent.